canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the city general election held November 4th, 2025.
And I wanted to pull this item off of consent. Obviously, it's a big deal. We had a big election last week, and we also got some public comment, a question about the process for doing the vote reallocation and some questioning of that. And I think it's really important in our country at this moment in particular to be very outspoken and very forthright and very transparent about how our voting systems work, and not to allow something to pass on the consent agenda without discussion, especially if there's some questions that are raised. So you'll see that now on the record, there's both the public comment and also Ramsey County's response to that public comment. Just to be clear about a couple of things, our city ordinance does not require manual counting of ballots, and Ramsey County confirmed, and that's what you'll see in the attachments in the public record, they confirmed with the Secretary of State's office that it is actually the city's responsibility to decide whether or not their ranked voting system is acceptable, and we did that in September. So I just want to be very clear and forthright on the record about the processes that were followed, and that I have every confidence in the process. So I would move approval, and I welcome discussion of that motion. All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Now you want to do the suspension item, skip number 9 and do.
Yeah, sure. We're gonna move number 9 to a different part of the agenda where it follows another item more seamlessly. I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The rules are suspended. Resolution 25-1780, appointing Jacobson Lawyers Group under the direction of Dan Jacobson as special counsel representing the City of St. Paul et al. v. Christopher Wright et al., filed in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia.
This was brought under suspension because of a clerical error in terms of how it was entered into Legistar, but it is something that we need to immediately retain this counsel for, and so we didn't want to delay in a lawsuit against the Trump administration. I will take a motion from Ms. Coleman for approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 10 is final adoption of ordinance 25-59, amending chapters 60, 63, 65, 66, 67, and 69 of the Legislative Code as recommended in the Traditional Neighborhood District Zoning Study.
And for those of you who are not super familiar with our ordinance adoption process here at the City Council, all of our ordinances have at least 3 readings, a first reading when they get a staff report and we're first introduced to the content of the policy, a second reading that is a public hearing when folks from the public can comment on the policy, and then finally they're adopted at the final and third reading. So our items here that say final adoption have already been through that entire process, and you'll see others coming later in the agenda for first readings and for public hearings. So just note that nothing comes right in front of us one time and is adopted just like that, even though that's what you'll see for the items that are in final adoption mode right now. So this is before us for final adoption. I will take a motion for approval from Ms. Johnson, and I would welcome discussion of the motion. Seeing none, I will just say this is a really big deal. We are updating our traditional neighborhood districts to allow for more density, for better design, and for an easier code to understand for those who are trying to build St. Paul, which we're all trying to do. So very excited about this, and we're going to be taking item 9 in a second after this, which relates to this item. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 9 is Resolution 25-113, initiating the T-District follow-up and transit corridor zoning study.
Ms. Jost.
Thank you, Council President Naker. So basically, we just passed our T-District ordinance, but based on a lot of the public comments that we heard, we are following up on that with a T-District study. So it's a T-District follow-up and transit corridor zoning study, and so that's basically what this resolution is doing, is diving more into that.
Thanks, Ms. Jost, and I really appreciate your office and you personally taking the lead on putting this resolution forward so that we could be immediately responsive to all the folks who said, but don't just stop here, immediately do the next step, and we're immediately doing the next step. I know many of us actually, when we thought about doing a T-District study, we thought that we would be actually looking at our commercial corridors and hopefully rezoning many of them to this mixed use that's much more progressive urban design. That wasn't what the first part of the study was about, but we're doing that right now. And I also want to acknowledge that there were some really helpful comments provided to us by Union Park District Council and others. One of them that I thought was particularly insightful had to do with whether or not storage should be allowed as a use in T districts. And while we just adopted allowing storage as a use, the next phase of the study that we're initiating by resolution here does ask staff to take a closer look at that, just to see if we want to be allowing storage facilities in this district at this time. So, any further discussion? Ms. Bowie.
I also just want to echo and champion. Thank you so much, Councilmember Jones, for your office taking lead on this. I represent quite a few district councils, so I did have a chance to sit down with the Union Park District Council, some of their members, and get a deep download of T districts, and had a really robust conversation of all the possibilities to be able to simplify this. One of the things that they're really excited about, and I'm really excited about, is not only simplifying, but being able to help streamline development better, right? And being able to give our district council some of the tools, right? With being able to articulate very clearly and easily what T districts are, and how they can be powerful tools to help with development, especially in the Midway. So I just want to echo that, that sweat equity that went into it, and also more to come in the future.
Thanks, Ms. Bowie.
Yep.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, there's a motion for approval from Ms. Jost. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 11 is ordinance 25-65, creating Chapter 225A of the Legislative Code titled Firearms Regulations to establish regulations for assault weapons, binary triggers, ghost guns, and signage.
Just before we take this item, I neglected to thank staff for all their hard work on the T District zoning study. I want to thank Spencer, his team, just really great work, and sorry for forgetting that earlier. Awesome job. Okay, pivoting. This is before us for final adoption. I would take a motion from Vice President Kim for approval. Is there any discussion of that motion? Ms. Jost.
Thank you, Council President. You're making me go first again.
I saw your hand.
So I want to thank you. I'm really appreciative of this ordinance moving forward. A couple of months ago in September, I was at a community meeting town hall, and I was asked by the interviewer, do you think our kids are safe in our schools? And I really struggled to answer that question. It was within the same week that 2 children were killed in a mass shooting at Annunciation Church, in a Catholic school, and a church community very similar to the one in my ward. In the same week, like many of you all, I dropped off my son for his first day of school, for his first day of first grade. I spoke to many teachers and staff at his school that were still struggling to cope with what happened and to still be able to do the job that we ask them to do every day. And I struggled to answer this question because I know the answer is no. No, our children are not safe in our schools, and it is our job as adults, as community members, as elected leaders, to protect them. It was first when I was a teenager. It was Columbine in 1999. And then when I was a college student, it was Virginia Tech in 2007. And then it was Sandy Hook in 2012. And then Uvalde in 2022. And too many more to name. Every morning as a mom, like many of you, I take my child to school each morning. I give my son a hug and a kiss, and I tell him I love him. And I say goodbye to him, knowing that there's a non-zero chance that I will not see him again. Our children should not be tasked with protecting each other from gunfire. Our healthcare professionals should not have to deal with the trauma of treating children who have been shot with these weapons of destruction. And their families should not have to endure this devastation. This is not normal. This is not okay. And as a community, we cannot accept it. So within that same week, our council, along with our mayor's office, proposed these 4 common sense gun safety laws that our community is asking for. I want to thank Mayor Carter for his leadership and for bringing local elected officials from a dozen cities, many of whom represent communities from Hopkins to Rochester to Stillwater, some with different political ideologies from us. But we all understand that we cannot allow our residents to be caught in the crossfire of political gridlock. We all share a common goal and a conclusion that our residents deserve to feel safe in our parks, our libraries, our schools, and our homes. And our cities are responsible for public safety, and we must be empowered to act, and there's no doubt that these gun laws will make our communities safer. While these laws will only take effect if the state preemption law is lifted, they represent a powerful step forward. They empower our communities and unite leaders in forging a path toward real solutions. This action is within the power that we have as a council, and in our role, we cannot accept doing nothing. When federal and state leaders have not been able to act, it is our cities that have and that must step up. I'm committed to working with all levels of elected officials in advancing public safety in our shared community. I want to thank our council for their courage and effort to bring this forward, and to our city staff for all of their hard work on this. I want to thank our community partners in Moms Demand Action for standing with us every step of the way and for your unwavering commitment to our kids. And I want to thank everyone else that has helped in bringing this forward. I will be voting yes.
Thank you, Ms. Jost. Other discussion of the motion, Ms. Yang.
Thanks, Council President. I will also be voting in support of this gun violence prevention ordinance, and I echo everything that Councilmember Jost shared. One of the things that I want to share is that from the testimonies we heard, one thing that really stuck with me when I left the council chambers is that so many of the testifiers came with the focus on our kids. And when I think about our children, like they really do come into this world inheriting what, the world that we gave to them. And for so many of us here and out in the community, we are here speaking out about our support for this because we have a duty and obligation to build a world that they deserve and create the type of safety that they deserve to live in too. And so I'm very grateful to all of the staff members, the community members, so many of the leaders here from Moms Demand Action who are here doing the work day in and day out to make sure that our communities are a safer place for everyone. And really commend Mayor Carter and also all of the cities that are taking such a bold stance on this with that very grand coalition coming together. I believe it sends a very strong message to our legislators about where we are all across the state. And so we'll be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yang. Vice President Kim.
Okay. I have a very brief prepared remark, and then I'm going to share something I think sort of personal. I'm extremely disheartened by the level of violence in our state that we had to endure this year. We have lost so many cherished and beloved parts of our communities to preventable gun violence, and none of this is normal. And I refuse to accept this reality as our only option. These measures are the least of what we can do to stop gun violence, and we cannot keep accepting the intense violence and the fear in our communities as a price just to live here. This issue is very personal. I'm going to be brave and share two sort of personal experiences. The year that we were running for office, I was stalked to my house, and I opened the door to a stranger that was very demanding and accosting, and the way that he was standing, I thought that I would be shot in my home on my own doorstep. And I, unfortunately, am someone that was assaulted, and they used a weapon to enter my home and harmed my roommate at the time, and I woke up to someone with a weapon, quite frankly, in my bedroom, not to be overly specific. And lastly, our friends and colleagues, a lot of whom that we consider family, were told to shelter in place the moment that we found out that our friend and colleague, Melissa Hartman and Mark, and their family and the Hoffmans were attacked and shot and assassinated. And like many of our colleagues and friends and their families, my family also was given the instruction to shelter in place until the assassin was caught. So this is a very personal issue. Every single Minnesotan has experienced gun violence just by the sheer virtue of lawmakers being attacked in their homes, just for the sake of standing up for what's right and good. My last thought is that this is absolutely and squarely on the political class and our state legislature specifically, and I'm proud to join my colleagues in supporting this ordinance. But now more than ever, we need to work towards a state legislature that is pro-gun control. Every election cycle, candidates across the board run on public safety. And you, of all people, Moms Demand Action, you are up there every single year demanding that we do better. And every year, there are hundreds of mass shootings across the country. We cannot keep talking about the importance of public safety when someone with malicious intent is able to access high-capacity assault weapons. So I really implore, I'm so grateful for all the work that you're doing, and you can count me in to join you at the legislature to lobby for this change. And I just want to emphasize it again, that we need together to work towards a state legislature that is pro-gun control. So please tap into the election cycle next year and look really carefully at the candidates that are willing to do, honestly, the bare minimum to ensure that our communities are safe. So I'm planning on supporting this, and I really appreciate all the work that our colleagues have done and all the staff work that's gone into it.
Thanks, Vice President Kim. I see Ms. Coleman, Ms. Bowie, and Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. On August 27th, I was on my way to this building with my family to be sworn in as a St. Paul City Council member when we heard the early stages of the news that 30 people were shot just miles from here. As we would find out in the hours to come, 2 children were killed and countless others were traumatized, dealt a pain that they will live with for the rest of their lives. As expected, neither the U.S. Congress nor the Minnesota State Legislature took action to prevent such an unspeakable horror from ever taking place again. And I will say, I found myself that morning, having stepped into this body, feeling simultaneously like we had a call to act and not knowing what that looked like, and feeling the powerlessness that I have felt truly, virtually my entire life when it comes to gun violence. For years, we've been told that we're effectively powerless to stop the proliferation of guns and limit their presence in our community. Whether it's by 5 lawyers in robes at the Supreme Court or a handful of legislators at the Capitol, barriers have been put up time and again to attempt to force us to accept a perpetual lack of safety in our city and across our country. But I'm so very grateful to be in this body and to be in this city that said inaction is not an option. What we heard in this room last week in particular is that the residents of St. Paul refuse to accept inaction in response to the mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church and all the mass shootings that have come before. Our residents have said clearly that it is long past time for common sense gun reforms so that no child has to cower in fear of gunshots at our rec centers, and no parent or sibling has to receive the terrible call that their loved one has been the victim of gun violence. So today, I am very proud to cast a vote to enact this ordinance, knowing that this step won't immediately solve everything or anything. For now, the barriers that others have put in place will prevent us from enforcing this ordinance that the people of St. Paul are demanding. But in a democracy, the fact that the overwhelming majority of our residents want these measures enacted should matter. I vote today with the deepest of hope that one day soon, our legislature will decide that they too believe in both democracy and basic public safety, lift the preemption, and allow us to enforce this ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Ms. Bowie.
Thank you. I just have some remarks, and I just wanted to say I do appreciate the vulnerability that everyone brings and the personalization of this. It goes without saying just the heaviness of the tragedy and the call to action that many of us, have been thrust into, especially as council members, as electeds. We are scrutinized to have that magic wand of being able to do something. And I do want to just say, I think very highly of the mayor, particularly to do some level of action and use his position to be able to promote action across the state, not just for, St. Paul. And I think really easily, across the entire country, we can look around and say, we're not like that city. We're not like Chicago. We're not like Detroit. We're not like cities that we know who have been challenged by gun violence, or even our next door neighbor. We're not like Minneapolis. but, being able to model what it means to actually take some level of action, even in the midst of not having the actual control to enforce that action. So I just wanted to share, I had left that press conference at the Capitol really feeling heavy, responding to that mass shooting at the Annunciation School, and leaving from that press conference, going straight to a funeral of my cousin who was killed by gun violence in Minneapolis, and just really feeling the gravity of that moment really reminded me that this crisis is not abstract. This isn't technical. This isn't just only legal in its nature. It's very personal. And it's families and classrooms, entire communities like ours who carry this pain every single day. The hardest part, I would say, about public safety is truly not its work. We have great people who are showing up every day, making sure we're going to be safe. The hardest part about public safety is its politics, and in the fear and the divisiveness that makes doing anything differently feels immensely impossible. And I say all this because I don't just talk about public safety as someone who has countless cousins who've been lost and taken violently from this world due to gun violence. I really live it, I carry it, I think about it every single day. And as someone who represents the neighborhoods that bears the brunt of gun violence, I am committed to building a safer and more compassionate St. Paul. I've witnessed leaders be questioned time and time again about the ability to actually take action. I've witnessed leaders be questioned about their competence about public safety issues in the midst of wanting to do something differently. And I strongly support this ordinance, not because of its politics, but truly because it protects people and about the people who actually show up to work ready to do the job that our electeds or our residents have elected us to do. It's also about preventing another family from getting that tough phone call. And I fully support moving this forward so our city can do what we are elected to do, and that is protecting our residents and saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowie. Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate just the fact that we are taking the time to also share some of our, personal journey to this, because in many ways, this goes beyond our titles and our roles. And yes, it's an ordinance that we're putting in place, recognizing that there are limitations to it being ready on day one. But that to me isn't a barrier. Our city has been known to be a spearheader in a lot of conversations, and this is actually one ordinance that we actually aren't ahead of time or ahead of schedule on. We're well overdue for action, and the aspect of being inactive was just no longer an option, at least not for me, and from the sounds of it as well, from our city, from our administrator, and also from our council. And I think one of the things that has been really, especially the last year for me, has been how close these incidents have been to home in multiple ways. After our Minneapolis mass shooting that killed 2 students that we have mentioned multiple times, I received a call from family members in Mississippi because a homecoming was shot up completely, and multiple people were injured, lying dead on the street, and to create a intentional visual of understanding that this ordinance is being put in place because it's a life or death situation continuously when you have assault rifles in places they shouldn't be. And as someone who's, will soon be a mom in December, I want to be able to bring my child to a rec center and not have to worry about whether someone will be carrying an assault rifle in the building. I want him to be, my Black son, to be more familiar with math equations than school active shooter drills. I want the normalcy that involves being able to be raised in St. Paul to be more than just being nervous about what is it going to look like when a gun gets into the wrong hands of someone who maybe shouldn't have it, or a ghost gun that really shouldn't be on the streets at all is now able to roam through the cities. And some of these pieces and some of the things that we're actively trying to put in place are really just common sense. And I recognize that there was a lot of comments, public testimony, and we've received emails and calls, But the one thing I think that is really important is that you can't, no matter how you look at this ordinance, and no matter from what perspective you come from, negate the fact that lives continue to be lost every year continuously by the hands of assault rifles. And the inaction, I would say, of federal and state electeds throughout the country, because everybody's just waiting for that next thing, that next option, and then they turn on the screen, they mourn, they grieve, and then we go back to this cycle of doing nothing each and every time. And to me, unless you want to see something, a different result, you have to try something different. And so for me, this is really just, this is an ordinance that's working to try and put in place things that are really just common sense, but most importantly, aiming to save lives. And I hope that as folks are going through the what, the why, the how, this body is working to address the issues, they recognize the importance and the significance of ensuring that we do act now and not when we're all faced with having to deal with the reality that another life has been lost in our city limits. That is something that is unavoidable, something that is inevitable unless our country really starts to take an active stance against all forms of gun violence, but most importantly, enacting some of the things that are proposed here. For folks that, we have folks that have come in from all sides, but I think back to the public testimony in particular that had, I believe, a 7-year-old recording that shared being more familiar with active shooting drills in their schools. And there's something about that just doesn't sit well with me. Something about that shouldn't be just normal. And it's a normalcy that our students have been having to face for a while now. And so I support this with not only our kids in mind, but our communities as well. As an East Side council member, we have faced multiple incidents of gun violence, some that fall into the category of mass shootings but don't make as many headlines, others that are, on street gun violence with individuals. And the reality is just not everyone uses a gun for the quote-unquote well-intentioned reasons. People actually use them to harm folks and kill people. And in many ways, I think that there needs to be more done, and I hope that the state joins us in that fight. I know I am proud to join other cities that have also implemented some form of the same type of language and will continue to do that. I'm glad that the mayor took us up on, I think back to our drive back from Minneapolis that same week where we were talking through what it would look like for the capital city to take this stance. And I'm glad that people heard that, and I'm proud of the work that has been involved in getting something together so quickly. And again, this to me is a common sense ordinance that's well overdue, that I look forward to being able to implement and enforce one day, and hope that other cities will see the need to continue to advocate for that so they can change it at the state and federal levels too, because truly this is about saving lives. So thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Johnson. I want to thank all of you for your powerful words and also for the vulnerability that many of us have expressed in our personal experiences with gun violence. I want to echo your thanks to Moms Demand Action, to all of our partners who've made this possible, to Mayor Carter's administration for his leadership, to all the other cities who are joining with us to say we're not going to stand for this. And I think many of you know there's a quote that I have calligraphied, that my mom calligraphied in my office. That's one of my favorite quotes that really motivates me in a lot of my work. It's from a Jewish text that's about 2,000 years old, and translated it means, it's not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to turn away from it. And this is work that we cannot finish, but this is us not turning away from it. This is us not just pointing fingers at other levels of government, which is easy to do, but to point the finger at ourselves and say, what can we do? Passing this ordinance is not symbolic, as some have accused us of, but it is us showing that we are ready to go. We are lined up at the door, us and dozens of other cities and thousands of residents, not just in this city, but all over the country, and we just need the legislature to open the door. And I will be right there with you and with everyone else in this room as we ask them to do that this year. So I will move approval. Any further discussion? Actually, I think the motion was already made by the Vice President. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 12 is first reading of ordinance 25-72, amending chapters 60, 61, 68, and 72 of the legislative code pertaining to the Mississippi River Corridor Central Area, Critical Area, and the floodplain management overlay districts.
And this is what we call a hard pivot. Welcome up, Mr. Johnson.
Oh,
Especially if we have technical difficulties.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for having us here today. Very excited to introduce the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Zoning Study, MRCA for short. So the MRCA is a joint state and local program that provides coordinated land use and zoning regulations for the 72-mile stretch of the Mississippi River and the 7-county metro area. It was originally created in 1976 through executive order to protect the river's natural, cultural, and scenic resources. And these resources are protected through development standards that are administered through local government land use plans and zoning ordinances. So we're here today because in 2017, the state updated their MRCA rules, and then in 2019, they developed a model ordinance which includes specific zoning provisions, definitions, and regulations that local units of government are required to adopt to comply with MRCA rules. In addition to the required rules, there's also optional language in the model ordinance that cities can adopt but aren't required to do so. So when we compare the old MRCA rules to the new rules, generally there are stronger and more robust standards. And these standards include more height limits and protection of views, more detail for the variations in geological form, and then closer regulation of building heights through a conditional use permit process with specific requirements for mitigation of potential impacts on the river corridor. So at the heart of how MRCA works is it creates these 6 new overlay districts. And within these overlay districts, there's different dimensional standards associated with them. So that'd be required setbacks from the river, required setbacks from the bluffs, and then maximum heights in each of these districts. In addition to those dimensional standards, there's also performance standards for different types of facilities, vegetation management standards, land alteration and stormwater management standards, and then subdivision and land development standards. So at a high level, what the proposed amendments do is delete the old language for MRCA from 1982 and then replace it with new language that we're required to adopt to comply with the 2017 MRCA rules. Additionally, we're taking this opportunity to do a little bit of reorganization of the code, and so we're moving everything related to floodplain management into Chapter 68 so that all the stuff dealing with the river is in one place in our legislative code. So this adoption process is a little bit different than other ordinances that will come before you in the sense that final approval is required from the DNR. So after the council takes action, we'll submit the ordinance to the DNR for final approval. And if there's any issues with the proposed ordinance, they could send it back to us with changes. With what's before you, we're confident that that won't happen, but just wanted to mention that that's a piece of this approval process. So on May 2nd, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the proposed amendments. And generally, there were 4 things that were advocated for in public testimony. That was the inclusion of bird-safe glass provision, optional findings for conditional use permits and variances, changes the tiering requirements and building heights. In response to public testimony, the Planning Commission made several changes, particularly in regard to tiering requirements and building heights, and then initiated a separate study to look at bird-safe glass provisions. So with that, that concludes my presentation today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions? I have one quick one. I know we heard, or we've seen public comment from Friends of the Mississippi River with concerns about the bird-safe glass study and how long it might take for that to be completed. Do we have an estimated timeline for that to be both initiated and completed?
Sure. So the council president, council members, so the bird-safe glass study was initiated when they moved this study on. So we've already got started on it and have staff assigned, and we're anticipating to have something before you within a year.
Within a year?
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay. I'm going to move, there was a Scrivener's error, so I'm actually going to move version 3, which truly just corrects some references to different parts of the ordinance but doesn't change anything. So I'll move version 3. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, that being Councilmember Bowie. The ordinance is amended and laid over to November 19th for second reading. Item number 13 is ordinance 25-77, amending section 220.05 of the legislative code to set rates for base level garbage service to be effective January 1st, 2026.
And I believe we have a staff report from Ms. Haas. Welcome up. I think you may be here for a couple of items on our agenda today.
I think I have 4 today.
Excellent. You might win the trophy.
Okay. So Council President, Council members, I thought I could start by reviewing what goes into setting the rates, just as a reminder and new information for those that aren't aware. Does this go up if I set it here? I've never brought a prop.
If you activate the voice-activated projector, which you just did.
Okay, I'll just start going. So the collection costs are set by our contract with FCC.
And the voice-activated Zoom. There we go.
Okay. Can you see it? All right. So the base fee includes collection costs. That's the cost for transportation, staffing, equipment to actually pick up the trash. And that is set by our contract. The difference that we have with FCC over the consortium is we capped that at 3.5%, dependent on the consumer price index, where that was a variable that could go anywhere from 6 to 9% under the consortium. There are 2 different rates, whether you have weekly coverage or every other week pickup, they're different rates, right? Because there's different resources involved in that. And then we have the disposal fees. These are set by Ramsey County, and this is based on the volume of the cart. So we take that total tonnage, we estimate what we know what the volume is per cart, and basically it's a per ton fee. Those fees are set annually by the county. And then there's a billing service fee that's set by the city, and that we were able to reduce under city billing from $1.99 a month to $1.50 a month. And then bulky item collection fee, this is also set by our contract with our provider, and it has an annual increase of 3.5%. And then there are quarterly fees, so we total all that up, we get our base rate, multiply it by 3 to get our quarterly rate, and then we have our solid waste management tax. This is set by the state. It's 9.75%. And then there's a county environmental charge, and this is where when people say, why are our rates so high? This is great. They do great work with this money, but we have a 28% charge that is added to our base rate each quarter. So what does that mean?
Ms. Haas, before you keep going, when you say they do great work, what does that charge go to cover?
So some of it will be on another agenda item. So for our SCORE funding, we do get some of that money back to help with waste diversion and recycling, environmental initiatives, what is the new center called? Environmental Center that the county just opened, their outreach efforts, multi-unit recycling and biz recycling grants for businesses. So there's a lot of waste reduction and recycling work that comes out of that charge. But it is 28%, so it adds quite a bit to the bill. So these are our proposed rates for 2026, starting in January. The three things that to highlight are that the county disposal is increasing from $130 to $142 a ton. That's a significant increase, and that's where a big part of our disposal rate is going to go up. And then the contract increase that I mentioned, the 3.5%, we knew that was coming. That's added to the collection and the bulky items, and then extra bags. Extra bags are when your cart is open more than the ordinance allows. We're going to charge you for the extra bag because you've overfilled it. Or if you had a big party or something and you've got an extra bag next to your cart, there is a fee to collect that bag. And then the city billing service fee, we were able to keep flat, so there'll be no increase in that portion of the bill. So you can see what our 2026 quarterly total bill will look like. The ordinance only has the base, but I like to present what it really means to a resident in real dollars, and then comparison to the 2025 quarterly total bill.
Thanks, Ms. Haas. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you so much.
And the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for second reading public hearing. Item number 14 is ordinance 25-63, amending legislative code chapter 220 to allow for garbage cart sharing at properties with 2 or more dwelling units beginning January 1st, 2026.
This brings us to the public hearing section of our agenda. So when you hear your number called out and I call for anyone here to testify on this item, that'll be your cue to come on up and stand between the 2 microphones or line up on either side if there's a line. You'll have 2 minutes to testify, and we ask that you start by saying your name and where you're coming from. And my job is to keep us all to 2 minutes, which is not easy, but we also accept testimony in lots of other ways if you find you run out of time. And then make sure you sign in on either of the sign-in sheets when you're done. So is there anyone here to testify on item 14? This is a public hearing. All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Bowie to close the public hearing and lay the matter over to November 19th for final adoption. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 15 is public hearing of ordinance 25-66, creating Chapter 420 of the Legislative Code establishing regulations for the registration of cannabis and hemp businesses, creating Chapter 420A for the Legislative Code for establishing a permit requirement and process for temporary cannabis events, and amending Section 310.01 to add a definition for cannabis fees.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Coleman to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th for final adoption. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 16 is public hearing of ordinance 25-67, amending Chapter 170.02 of the Legislative Code to allow the Director of Parks and Recreation to adjust the hours of certain parks to accommodate for park use during the 2025 World Cup Junior Hockey Championship.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Looks like Director Rodriguez wants to speak on this item. Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th for final adoption. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 17 is ordinance 25-68, amending Section 106.01 of the Legislative Code to allow businesses in the downtown entertainment district to temporarily allow items in the right-of-way without a sidewalk use permit during the 2025 World Hockey Championship.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Johnson to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 18 is ordinance 25-69, amending Section 293.02D of the Legislative Code to remove the requirement for a sound level variance in the downtown entertainment district during the 2025 World Junior Hockey Championship.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Yang to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 19 is ordinance 25-70, amending Section 409.08 of the Legislative Code to allow holders of liquor licenses issued under 409 to apply for an extended service of alcoholic beverages until 2 a.m. during the 2025 World Junior Hockey Championship.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Yang to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed, and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 20 is ordinance 25-71, amending section 55.04A of the Legislative Code to simplify the requirement for a temporary structure permit during the 2025 World Junior Hockey Championship.
In case you're wondering, we are having a World Junior Hockey Championship here at the end of December, and it's going to be a great time in downtown St. Paul. That's the TLDR of the last few ordinances. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Vice President Kim to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed, and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 21 is ordinance 25-76, creating Chapter 297 of the Legislative Code prohibiting the use and placement of virtual currency kiosks within the city.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Welcome up. Just come on up, and again, just start with your name and where you're coming from, and you'll have 2 minutes.
President Naker and the City St. Paul Council, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Gordon Roble. I'm a resident of St. Paul and an AARP volunteer. The Minnesota AARP office is in St. Paul, and we have more than 50,000 members in Ramsey County. AARP has long worked to support fraud victims and improve fraud detection and prevention, including our work on public solutions, on policy solutions. Crypto kiosks are a simple way for individuals to convert U.S. dollars into cryptocurrency. These unstaffed machines look like a traditional ATM and are often found at convenience stores and other high-traffic areas. Instead of distributing cash like a traditional ATM, these machines take cash in exchange for digital cryptocurrency. Given the fast-growing problem of these kiosks being used as a vehicle for delivering money to scammers, we believe stronger consumer protections are needed. The impact of fraud on victims and their families is wide-reaching and can be financially and emotionally devastating. Examples include identity theft scams, romance scams, or scams pretending to be the government. Criminals are becoming more sophisticated in their approach, which is a growing challenge for law enforcement and policymakers who struggle to stay ahead of the new scams. Scammers have worked around existing state law to continue defrauding Minnesotans with these machines. In addition to state and federal advocacy to enact laws and regulations to help prevent fraud, AARP regularly provides free information to consumers through the work of our Fraud Watch Network and Helpline. Both are available to people of any age, and you do not have to be a member to access it. AARP Minnesota regularly partners with law enforcement, regulatory agencies, the Better Business Bureau, and the Attorney General to host fraud prevention and awareness events. Given the alarming rise in fraud being committed through cryptocurrency
It
kiosks.
is time, so I need you to just wrap up with maybe the last sentence.
Pardon?
Just come to a conclusion, because you're at time.
Okay, the conclusion is that we would like some legislation that would close loopholes and enhance oversight and prioritize consumer protection.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and make sure to sign in. And we'll make sure you get an additional 21 seconds, not to worry. Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the council, I'm Ethan McClelland. I'm the Director of Government Relations at Bitcoin Depot, the largest operator of cryptocurrency kiosks in the world. We have 7 locations serving St. Paul residents. And thank you for the opportunity to speak about ordinance number 76. We absolutely share the council's goal of protecting consumers from fraud. In fact, we've enacted a number of industry-leading anti-fraud policies that go beyond what is required in state law. We utilize sophisticated transaction monitoring and have implemented multiple consumer-facing safeguards, including on-screen notices that require affirmative customer attestations to actively warn users about scam-related activity. In 2024, the state passed legislation that licensed the operation of virtual currency kiosks like ours and implemented numerous requirements specifically to combat fraudulent activity. While no bill is perfect, we feel it represented a significant step forward towards combating fraud in the industry. However, placing a reactionary ban on an industry that is already licensed and regulated by the state which serves a legitimate financial purpose for many St. Paul residents, is unnecessary and will deprive many customers, particularly those who choose to transact in cash, of their only way to participate in the growing digital economy. We would urge the council to instead work with the industry and the State Department of Commerce to enact common sense reforms that further protect consumers and foster innovation in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and make sure to sign in. Anyone else here to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till November 19th for final adoption. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The
No.
public hearing,
Yep.
7 in favor, 1 opposed, that being Councilmember Bowie. The public hearing is closed and the ordinance is laid over to November 19th for final adoption. Item number 22 is resolution public hearing 25-253, setting the solid waste service fee for 2026.
And I think we have another staff report. Yes, welcome back up, Ms. Haas.
Two props. Okay. Council President, council members, our annual service fee covers the cost of our program administration, purchasing and repair of carts, and this is an annual fee that appears on property taxes and is a per unit fee, whether there's cart sharing or not, that will apply to each unit. In 2025, that rate is $42.86 per year, and we are looking at a 1.5% increase for next year of $43.50. As a comparison, last year's increase was 29%, so it's a significant decrease.
Thanks, Ms. Haas. Any questions before we open up the public hearing? Doesn't look like it. Thanks very much.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oh, I'm so sorry, and Greg even told me this. Close the public hearing and lay the matter over till December 3rd for final adoption when we do the budget. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the item is laid over to December 3rd for final adoption. Item number 23 is resolution public hearing 25-254, authorizing Public Works to request $828,344 in SCORE grant funds from Ramsey County to support the curbside recycling program and setting the 2026 city recycling services fees.
And you're coming back, I think. Welcome back, Ms. Haas.
Okay. Council President, council members, this is just more good news, I think. So we are proposing a 0% increase for our annual service fee for the recycling. Next year, we were able to reduce some expenses and not have to increase for next year. The SCORE grant amount is part of that county environmental charge that we get funding back to implement recycling or diversion activities. That amount will change, and so we'll be back to amend that. They don't set their amount until the end of December, and we just go with the previous year's grant amount. So it could be reduced or increased depending on our population and our environmental justice index.
Got it. Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Haas? I have one that's a little bit of a curveball, but as long as we're talking about curbside recycling, any updates on when we're going to get curbside composting, which we have been awaiting from the county for decades?
I've been saying 2 years for at least 8 years, so that's actually why I came to the city, was to work on the organics program. So the 2027 is what we're hearing. So the largest obstacle has been implementing, having the infrastructure to accept the amount of material that will come from St. Paul. We're the biggest city in the county. Waste Management was awarded that contract over at 309 Como. They are currently working to put in the optical sorters and all of the gadgets to be able to accept that. I think until we have an official date, we don't have an official date. It'll take a lot of outreach and engagement with residents once the facility is up and running.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Okay, any other questions on or off the subject? All right. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Coleman to close the public hearing and lay the matter over till December 3rd for final adoption. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the item is laid over to December 3rd. Item number 24 is resolution public hearing 25-255, authorizing the Public Library Agency to accept Minnesota Department of Education grant funds and amending the library's 2025 financing and spending plans in the amount of $500,000 to support reconstruction of the Hamlin Midway Library.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 25 is Resolution Public Hearing 25-218, ratifying the assessments for benefits, costs, and expenses for the Grand Snelling parking lot operation and maintenance costs for 2026.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Jost to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 26 is Resolution Public Hearing 25-243, approving the application of Minnesota Run Series Podium Sports Marketing, Inc. for a sound level variance in order to present amplified sound for the Turkey Trot St. Paul on November 27, 2025 by Shepherd Road between Washington Street and Sherman Street.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Bowie to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 27 is RLH TA 25-115, ratifying the appealed special tax assessment for property at 686 Edmond Avenue.
Welcome, Ms. Mormont.
Council President, council members, for this particular item, I'm recommending that the council ratify the assessment and make it payable over 5 years.
Great. That's the recommendation of the legislative hearing officer, and we've already had our public hearing, closed it, and laid this matter over. I'll look to Ms. Bowie for a motion.
Yep, I support the motion.
Great. The motion is to support the legislative hearing officer's recommendation.
Yes.
Thanks, Ms. Bowie. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted as amended. Legislative hearing consent agenda items 28 through 39 are before you for your consideration.
Ms. Mormont, is there anything for separate consideration?
Council President, if items number 28 and 29 could be pulled.
Item number 28 is RLH SAO 25-62, appeal of Deborah Roberto to a summary abatement order and vehicle abatement order at 235 Bates Avenue.
Ms. Mormont.
I'm requesting that the council refer this to legislative hearing on December 9th. We'd like to affirm the property lines in this case in the next one.
So moved by Ms. Johnson.
So moved, yeah.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The item is referred to legislative hearings on December 9th. Item number 29 is RLH SAO 25-60, appeal of Emmett J. Owens Jr. to a summary abatement order and vehicle abatement order at 239 Bates Avenue.
Ms. Mormont.
The same situation with this one, refer to legislative hearing on December 9th to confirm property lines.
So moved by Ms. Johnson.
So moved.
Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is referred to legislative hearings on December 9th.
Ms. Mormont, is there anything else for separate consideration?
I'm not aware of anyone here to testify in another legislative hearing item.
Oh, okay. Ms. Bowie?
I do have a separate thing. I do want to be able to pull item number 38 and just ask you some questions about that.
Item 38. Do you want to read that out?
Yep. Item 38 is RLH SAO 25-61, appeal of Johnny E. Howard Sr. to a summary abatement order at 633 Van Buren Avenue.
Ms. Bowie?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, legislative hearing officer, Marsha Mormon. Appreciate you giving the review. I think this one is not really a big item. I think this was just a abatement order that was sent to Mr. Johnny Howard, telling him to remove his items. There wasn't a order put out. The city hasn't, actually sent anyone to pick up items. But I just want, just for the record, because Mr. Johnny Howard isn't here and he has vocalized a lot of, I guess, frustrations, I should say. And I just wanted to be able to have a transparent, on the record, instructions on what is expected of Mr. Howard and what should be removed, and to the degree of what is considered debris and what is not, just so we have clarity on the record.
Ms. Mormon?
Okay, the order that was sent to Mr. Howard, the owner of this property, indicated that He was to properly remove and properly, please remove and properly dispose of the tires, scrap wood, plastic barrel, metal barrel, and all miscellaneous garbage debris from the entire property, especially from the rear of the property. When reviewing this case, we looked at these photos. So we have here a photo. You can see it's the back of the property between garages, and there's a couple of barrels there. You can see that here's this stringer, this stair stringer, and I will show you a better photo now, closer up to, it's actually not closer, but I can bring you closer. This is, excuse me, right here in the property. Those are a couple of tires. You can see some scrap wood perched against that. Underneath the tires is some kind of a surface. It looks like it might be some kind of a rubberized thing. And this is an outdoors chair. So the stringers would need to be removed, the scrap wood and the tires. The stringer and the scrap wood would come underneath Chapter 34, exterior property maintenance, that those items could not be stored on the exterior. Evidently, the boards are being used as replacement boards for the deck, as boards do need to be replaced there. So here's the storage for the annual kind of board replacement, and simply those need to be stored on the interior of a structure, not in the exterior. These are orders the council sees frequently. I am recommending the council grant to December 12th to address those items. The orders from the Department of Safety and Inspections indicated that, these are hard to navigate, sorry, with the October 16th. So there's a couple of month really difference between the original deadline, mid-October, and the deadline I'm recommending to the council in mid-December.
Okay. And I'm, Nancy, there's a question. I just
Do you want to just wrap up?
Just share too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Mormon. I just wanted to make clear that they have until December 12th. If they do not get that removed by December 12th, that's when a work order will be issued.
Yeah, the Department of Safety and Inspections will send an inspector out, and if those things haven't been addressed, then a work order would be sent for a city crew, or a city contracted crew, if you will,
Yep.
to clean up the area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for getting clarity on that. And I think we should hold the public hearing on this since we pulled it separately. So we'll do that in a moment. Ms. Johnson, did you have something to?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify regarding just the pieces around correspondence from Mr. Howard. Was that added to the public record?
All the correspondence that I have is in the public record. And that is basically, I don't have anything beyond the appeal and photos and the letter that we sent to Mr. Howard confirming the recommendation in today's hearing time and date.
Okay, so to the commentary piece, Councilmember Bowie, could you just share a little bit more about where that would have came from?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I can talk with my executive assistant to get more clarity about it, but from my understanding that this was before Mr. Howard had actually filed for appeal. He had shared his frustrations. He actually received a notice saying that he had to remove what was trash and debris, and he had disagreements, particularly around that being considered trash and debris. We had told him that if he does plan to move forward with the appeal, which he has the right to do, that all that correspondence needs to be on record. So I believe that conversation happened prior to him actually filing that appeal. Now, we can definitely, if it's worthwhile, definitely can have that reflected on the record. He has emailed my office and even have made posts about, him feeling targeted particularly, and to the degree, what he shared in the hearing is also on record as well, so.
Thank you. It is very important that we have everything on record, so please do submit any of those correspondences. Obviously, this is a public hearing, which is Mr. Howard's opportunity to testify on his own behalf. I don't think he's here, but we're going to call a public hearing. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to testify on item 38? All right, seeing none,
I do want to also just share too, Mrs. Marja,
Can we close the public hearing first, Ms. Bowie?
Yes, yeah.
I'll take a motion for Ms. Bowie to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed.
Thank you so much, and appreciate. I know the procedural part can be a little tricky, and I just also want to just make sure we have on record if those items are not removed and say an order is issued, Mr. Howard does have the opportunity to appeal that order. Correct?
Council President, Councilmember Bowie, the work order that would be issued is not appealable.
Okay.
The assessment for the work that is done would be appealable. So the council now determines it in advance, or excuse me, immediately after the deadline passes. The staff will provide a report to the legislative hearing team, and we will forward that on to you in a resolution. So. Okay. Yeah, he could say, I'm actually done, even though staff said, I'm not done. But we wouldn't re-litigate the order itself. It will simply be whether or not it's been taken care of, if that's what the council adopts today.
Yep, thank you.
So I think Ms. Bowie, I would look to you for a motion.
Yep, I motion to support the recommendation from the hearing officer.
Okay, thank you. The motion is to support the recommendation of the legislative hearing officer. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted.
Is there anything else for separate consideration? Otherwise, I think we're going to hold a public hearing on all of the other legislative hearing items. So if you're here for any item from
28 to 39.
28 to 39, this is your public hearing. Come on up. Seeing none, I'll take a motion from Ms. Johnson to close the public hearing and adopt the items as recommended and amended by the legislative hearing officer. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
7 in favor, none opposed. The legislative hearing consent agenda is adopted as amended.
This brings us to the end of our agenda and everyone's favorite time of the week, good news. Any good news from the wards? I see Vice President Kim and then Ms. Jost.
I am co-hosting with our council president a Know Your Rights training happening next Monday, the 17th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the North End Community Center. In addition to that, this Sunday, November 16th, there's a nonviolent direct action training with the AFL-CIO and AFSCME, the Women's March, Jewish Community Action, Indivisible Twin Cities, St. Paul Regional Labor, and it's posted onto our socials where you can find how to sign up there. But it's a free training for the pro-labor, pro-democracy movement folks to have a safe and fun and effective way to take direct action.
Very nice. Thanks, Vice President. Thanks for shouting out our co-hosting on Monday, too. Ms. Jost.
Thank you. So I got a couple things. So one is an event that happened this past weekend, but in Ward 3, we opened a new pastry shop called X2 Pastries. It was our office's first Star Project opening, and so we were super, super thrilled. It's a really wonderful pastry shop. It's owned by two owners, both first names are Zhang and Zhang, so it's either X2 for times 2 or X squared, if people enjoy math like I do. And so I'm very excited about it for a lot of reasons. They're open Wednesday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., so I'd encourage folks to go check it out so that we can be supportive and hopefully there'll be a business in our community for a really long time. So that was super exciting. And then one more item. This is technically in Ward 4, but Councilmember Coleman said it was okay. So this is at Groveland Rec Center. They're doing a do-over of the community kickoff that was rained out last month. So it's this Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. Friday, November 14th at the Groveland Rec Center. There will be they'll be talking about some of the parks projects going on at the rec center. It's going to be indoors this time. There's going to be food and a sneak peek at the upcoming project. So come on out and check it out.
Thanks, Ms. Jost. A little rain never shut us down for long. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. And yes, indeed, no rain, it's okay. I have just two quick things. First, I'll be at a ribbon cutting celebration at Highwood Hills this week on Friday at noon. although the basketball courts have been utilized and have been open, we are going to do the official ribbon cutting there. It's something that our community has continued to want to see, just improvements regarding Highwood Hills. It's a joint power agreement with the school district, so it's a school and is also, rec center. And I think in many ways, just we continue to see improvements in the area that honestly has been invested in for a while. And so some of those things are just, they seem like small feats, but they're actually really big deals. People being able to utilize quality equipment as a result of some of our common sense investments. And so looking forward to that this week. Separately, you heard me share at the Housing Redevelopment Authority meeting today, but I'll share it again for folks that are tuning in here and may not have seen it at the HRA meeting. I'm really excited that after a long time coming, the Emergency Rental Assistance and Eviction Prevention Program is open here at the city. It's really important that folks understand the distinction between some of the resources that we have already available. In a lot of cases, emergency rental assistance can only be provided after you have gotten an eviction filed in your record, which we know at the end of the day, whether it's filed and you either, it's later solved in other ways that's still on your record. This would allow for residents to be able to receive rental assistance or eviction prevention assistance up to $2,500 for eligible renters with just that 14-day notice that says you're late, which is super important. And as we head into next year, especially as we're gearing up for the implementation of tenant protections that allows for a 30-day change from 14 to 30 days in our city for people to be able to find resources and be able to keep their homes, that this could really truly be a tool to unlock and disrupt the continued path of people being unhoused during some of the worst times of the year, which we are embarking on. And so I'm really excited to see this program get up and running. Thank you again to our Planning and Economic Development team, to our mayor for investing in the program continually with the local affordable housing aid, and to our state legislatures for even making emergency rental assistance an eligible use. In addition, shout out to Rachel and to Jules Montagna, who have been working to bring this up from the get-go. We've had some changes and we've had some setbacks, but being able to see this launch this year is something that I'm truly, really proud of, and I'm glad it came in time, just in time, to keep people into their homes for the holiday season. So if you know of folks that this might come up, or you hear things, especially in community, show them about this resource. This is a $1 million investment this year and set up to be an additional resource for next year as well as we continue. And although, folks may think $2,500 doesn't go a long way, when you don't have to worry about where that's going to come from because you're able to maybe free up that money for childcare, free up that money for food, it means a lot, especially right now when we are having families that aren't even able to get SNAP benefits and for a moment of time, or who are struggling to try and have their homes taken care of because maybe the head of household has been truly disrupted or taken out of their home. We are in drastic times, and therefore certain things have to be able to be invested in at the local level. So really excited about that application. It's live, it's open. It's just stpaul.gov/ERA. And I'm sure if you look it up, we'll be able to put it out on our social media channels. We have a statement going out shortly after this. But it is something that I personally am really excited to see get off the ground and back up and running. We haven't had an emergency rental assistance program since COVID and ARPA dollars. And so this is just an effort to just once again be a disruptor in the line of the continuum to homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for your leadership on that effort too. Ms. Yang.
Thanks, Council President. I have an event to share from St. Paul Parks and Rec happening in my ward. Many of you have been hearing Parks and Rec talk about wanting to build an East Side athletic center in our city, and having aquatics be a part of, and an aquatics facility be a part of that too. Well, the Duluth and Case Community Center is really what we are focusing on because of how outdated that building is. I think almost everybody here was at the Hayden Heights Rec Center when we had a public hearing, and you got to see a bit of how that building looked like, how we also didn't even have AC there. And so the Duluth and Case Rec Center is really similar to that, but in worse condition. And so the Parks and Rec team has been doing such a great job already communicating and engaging with the community about a possible design for this, and it would be the comment sent investments that this is a part of. And so we're doing an open house on this, and so it's happening on Friday, November 21st from 11:30 to 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And it's for our East Side residents, anybody who's interested overall in this vision around the athletic center. And we want to hear from folks about the design overall. It'll be at the Hmong Village Conference Room A18, and so that's located on 1001 Johnson Parkway. Also, I got to see the renderings a bit already, and so I am really excited for you all to get to see that too, and we'll make an ask for the staff to make rounds with everybody here.
Very exciting. What good news around the table today. I will just add that Rondo Community Land Trust is having its annual gala tonight, starting at 5:30 at the St. Paul Hotel. The theme is Paint the Town Red. Some of us are already dressed for it, including people in the audience. So we can all just walk over to the St. Paul Hotel and support Rondo Community Land Trust. That brings us to the real end of our agenda. Thanks for a great meeting. We are adjourned.